This does indeed change everything, so stay tuned and all will be revealed. Well, good morning everyone and welcome back to Piccadilly. Now, you'll wonder, why are the buildings being removed? Well, purely because you'll see I've ballasted the track and literally just the glue is sopping wet. Now, if I'm not going to go into the ins and outs of how I did that, there are literally hundreds of videos on YouTube how to do that, of which Charlie from Chadwick has added the latest. If you'd like to go and have a look at that, please feel free to go and see. Oh my word, what's going on here, you might be asking? Well, I come to a realisation. I started to print off the overhead catenary, as would there, and there will be two pieces that fit back to back, and I'll explain that later. However, a lot of them, if I made them correct length, would go way beyond this point where the board finishes and way beyond here in the odd one or two instances. So I've had to shorten the catenary to a kind of believable length, which is too short, but I decided to put this extension on the side. Now, I would have used the plywood that this was made from initially, but the piece that I had cut out of there, you can see it's almost like a bit like a spear shape. That's long gone, and I haven't got any more, unfortunately. So what I decided to do is use some 2mm board and glue layers together, and at the bottom there is a layer which goes way underneath the board there and is gluing to the bottom, hence all the clamps. That's the point. And I've also put glue on the side edge there. So you can see in front of you, got two pieces of catenary, and they are mirror image of both, so they will be stuck back to back. I've printed this on a raft purely because it's delicate, but literally just taking it under and just snapping it up. Very, very gently, just pressing the knife blade down so it's actually pointing down like that. Right, on to the next bit, a dollop of super glue there. And all I'm going to do, gently hold that down and just gently just work my way through with it. So I'm just going to line it up there. This is the bit where it has no glue, if you remember. Bit of a line up there. We do seem a bit twisted. So just a bit of a separation, and I'm just going to slide that underneath, put the glue on that bit, make sure it's leveled, and then press together. Now I'm starting to think about the back scene. Now I am going to have to create this back scene because there is nothing to guide me on this. I've literally just got a sky view and a flat 3D view, which it's been taken from above, and then you just zoom down on it, and I'm going to have to work out what I'm going to put in, what I'm not going to put in. But I'm not going to go very vibrant with this, because you might recognise that as a piece of the back scene which I'm going along the back wall, which goes up a slight incline behind the carriage shed. Now this has got to tie up with that. There will be an angle piece going around the corner, 90. So what am I going to do? I've got some white emulsion here, so I'm literally just going to dab that on. Just got an old towel underneath the bed, if you like, just to make sure. Not bed, it's the floor. But never mind. So I'm just going to dab that in well below halfway. It's far too dark, so I'm going to paint it out. Now that's grey. Now I always say keep a sky going at an angle. Cobalt blue, which again, just keep it going at an angle. Now this is a little bit more difficult because I'm painting this. This board is vertical for me, so it's not exactly easy. As you can see, that's not far off. There you go. I've literally just finished. So that's just got to dry probably about half an hour. Right, welcome back. Now, this is the image that I've got to work from. Now, if you can imagine the board up like that, when we look at it from a backscene point of view, or from a ground level point of view, you are seeing the ground sort of like that. But when we look at our model railways, we look at it like that. And so I've got to take that sort of elevated position when I create this back scene. You'll notice in the background there is a hill. Now if I just pan you around, you'll see exactly what I mean. So what I've done, as you can probably just about make out all along here, is that I've just drawn a pencil line, and then as it gets towards the station it goes up a bit. Okay, now this colour I'm making, if I pop that there, you'll see it's more blue than green. Right, okay, so it all looks a bit rubbish at the minute, and it looks more like a countryside scene than it does a town scene. But this is acrylics mostly, and obviously the white is emulsion. Now, once that's dry, I can then paint directly over the top of it. Right, welcome back. Now you can see that the back scene is all now dry, and I've fitted it back into position. And I mean, even looking at that, it's not too bad, but it's not very realistic looking at the buildings next to that. It just emphasises how narrow they are. But my first job is to draw around these existing buildings, and that will show me what I've got to put in. Like, for example, like I said before, I've got to put the roof in just here, and that roof will come up and continue up there like that for a little bit further. The chimney pots need to be put in around here, that sort of thing. And then once I've done that, then I can start thinking about putting the road in, which runs along this area here. Okay, let's fix it. Right, welcome back. So you might just be able to make out that I've put the lines around, that sort of thing. Now, what I'm proposing to do is to rebuild this scene. Now, I've gone back to the iPad now. It was doing something yesterday. I had to use the IPC, and it just made life very difficult moving things around. But what I'm planning on doing, you can see the Hadfield Station is just here. It's sort of buried in that gap there. You might be able to see it, you might not. But there is a road running up here. Now, that road will obviously go up there like that, in that type of thing. And there will be an amount of hill still showing. Now, please understand that there are going to be trees in the area. I think there's some trees immediately behind these buildings here. So obviously they will come up taller and they will obliterate some of the hillside. Now, what I also want to do, if I show you this going into Street View and then go to the area just outside the station, hopefully. There we are. Now, where's the station? There's the station just there. So if I now point down that road and just zoom back a bit, you can get an idea of what you can see. So there are buildings behind that warehouse which won't be in shot here, but there are trees in this area here because you've got those ones just there. Now, if I take a wander down the street, so obviously I've got more trees here, which, yeah, you probably would be able to see if I'm coming in at a slight angle like that. So I will put some of those in. Hopefully you can get an idea of what I'm thinking with this. That I can now see that there are buildings here. So those buildings will appear as it comes around here a little bit. Again, they won't be detailed. They'll literally just be, well, a little more than blobs, to be honest with you. But as I go down this road here, I'm not sure it's Park Road, but I think I've got to come that way and then I can go that way. Or the NCN 62, whatever that is. But you can see, I mean, even that shot there, there's plenty of buildings that are going to walk all the way down that street. So I've got to create this like channel going down there. And in the distance, probably around about here, there is some warehouses, which I haven't put in this scene, but I probably will put them in just as an indication. So there's a lot to do. I'm not going to say this is going to be an easy build, and I'm not going to do a step by step, because I can't imagine anybody on the planet is wanting to build this particular back scene. But it's using the ideas that I'm talking about. So if there's no 3D render available and you need to create your own back scene, it's using the flat map against Street View and taking it from there, unless of course you can find a photograph that somebody's taken for you. But for my situation, it's very unlikely, and I haven't come across anything from hours of searching. So there we go, it's build it myself. Right, I'll catch you shortly. Right, thought I'd just give you a bit of a preview. Now, please understand this is a very stylised rendition of Hadfield. It is not meant to be an exact representation in any way, shape or form. And my style of painting, if you've not realised, is quite impressionistic. In other words, I'm not going to stand there painting a building and putting all the door frames on and the window frames. It's an impression. And that's all it's meant to do. It's to give a setting, a background, and just allow you to focus on what's in front. And I think I'm starting to achieve it. Now, there is a gap running through, obviously, the area where the station is. There are some trees running along the front here. Sorry, that's all out of focus. There are some trees running along the front here. So as you go out of the station, obviously the car park's behind. I'm not going to put any cars in it, because whatever I try and paint, it's never going to look like a car and be convincing, so I'm not going to bother. But there's a building right in front of you, again a very stylized impression, and then that road continues down there. Now that obviously is then masked by these trees at the back of the car park, so you can't see what's going on behind there. But then you'll see I've put in a load of dots and sort of dashes above to give the impression that there is buildings behind. Now you can obviously see an element of the hill in the background, and that's all it's meant to do. Now if I slide you along, I've done about half of it so far, so I'll just give you that much and then we'll show you the rest at the end. But there's that bit there. Now I have done a little bit more of an impression here. This represents the trees that are immediately behind the station, and then this area here again is to give the impression that you can still see the hills in the background, but you can also make out the dots and dashes in this area here to represent the different buildings. I have started looking at the bridge area. I'm not completely happy with it yet, but that area to this direction, forgive my finger there, I'll do shortly. Now bear in mind a lot of that will just be trees, because it's going through the countryside and the trees are quite tall, so bearing that in mind, that's probably what you'll see. But you can certainly get the idea of where I'm going with this now, and I must admit I'm quite happy with that. You know, it gives the impression of what's going on, and then that gives me something to then aim at from this area when it goes around the corner here, which again will probably be lots of trees, because the Woodhead line, as was, did continue down that way, and obviously there are many trees there now and it's quite overgrown. So I will carry on with this and I will catch you later. So there it is. You can see now that the back scene is complete and the catenary is on. So you saw me painting a little bit of the back scene, but I was reluctant to go too far in showing you exactly how I did this, because it's a very bespoke thing. Now, trees, you may like my way of painting trees, you may not, but it's basically lots of different greens, dark greens, light greens, and white, yellows, and literally with the brush, dab it on. The best type of brush you really want is either a fan brush or a really old brush that's all splayed out, so all the bristles are sort of like that, and then you can literally just dab it on. Forgive my hands there, but then you can get all the really lovely effects. Now when the actual model foliage goes in front of that, hopefully it will complement that quite nicely. So if you do see through it, you'll be able to see what's behind. And as I said before, just going into this part here, you've got that street going out the back of the car park there, and the street leading down into the industrial estate at the bottom. And I mean, most of it is just trees, but then you've got this little bit here where you can still see some houses and things like that, and you've still got the hills in the background. This bit was quite difficult in the sense that there are buildings there, but to be honest with you, I thought I'd just keep it simple. There are buildings that run all the way down, again a little bit like the one on the other side, but I'll just sort of keep it simple there and indicate that it is potentially an old disused road as well. That might, and that bit there you can see some of the background, and I thought I'd just keep it more simple and low as we get further over, so you can still see the hills there, but any foliage I put in front has obviously got to be quite narrow, but I can stick it to the back scene, that type of thing. Now, catenary, I have made more, but as I said, I'll do this bit later on, maybe next week. But the catenary is 3D printed as I showed you in the video, but the one thing I haven't showed you was the fact that I can take it out. Now, I was thinking of putting magnets on the bottom of these, but that is a very small area, and to get the magnet to stick there and stick to the baseboard, it wasn't happening. It didn't like it. So what I opted to do was create these, for want of a better phrase, cups, if you like, or sockets. So that will then just fit in there, like so, and that in there. I mean, some of you may be doing a very similar type of thing for years, but I've not done it on Piccadilly, and all the catenary is stuck down. So bit by bit, I will be having it up and replacing it. This bit, because this is more an old-fashioned style, it was a job to know what to do, because there were literally 4 legs coming off each of the posts. So again, I've opted to go for a big socket, and bearing in mind a lot of that will be buried and you won't see it, so that all this will be foliage. Now, when I do the foliage next week, I'm not going to be building it up high like it actually is. I'm going to keep it quite low, purely because I want you to be able to see into the station. Significant areas like that bit there will be tall, and round here will be tall, where there's nothing else to see. But and then it can get a bit taller, sort of from about here, and maybe a tiny little bit going at the side again, but I don't want to hide the train as it's going along, but I can certainly build it up here and that sort of thing. This area here, a little bit more on that type. Anyway, as I said, I will leave the video just there. Hope you've enjoyed it, and I will catch you again very, very soon here on Piccadilly. Take care of yourself, and bye for now.